Thank you, everyone. Really honored to be a part of this forum, and what an exciting event it has been so far.
Thank you.
At a key time when we're starting to look at technology strategy. Of course, in the telco industry, we're moving from connectivity service provider to digital service provider. We're moving from telco to techco, and the metaverse presents probably one of the most topical opportunities for the telco to evolve into this digital and technology space. Really wanted to maybe start off by just talking about the metaverse, right? So, it's a virtual space which users can interact with and share computer-generated environments. And it's basically a framework where a lot of technologies that are just coming into play, augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, AI, 5G, ultra-fast broadband connectivity, where you're in the home, blockchain to bring ecosystems together, tokens, NFTs to transfer values. All of these things can come together to form an immersive experience where essentially you can be immersed in the experience, but on that journey you can, in theory, go across different worlds. And this leads to the question about the sort of use cases in the metaverse, how it will replace, displace, strengthen, support existing things that we're doing. And it's a very, very topical discussion for the operators. So I just wanted to maybe touch on a little bit on mobile forecasts and trends and blockchain, and try and put the two things together. So as we know, out of a population of 7.9 billion, we have over 6 million smartphones. We have over 30 billion IoT devices. And the telecommunications industry is growing very significantly. Number of innovations, if you sort of look at key trends, 5G, Open RAN, network slicing, AI and machine learning in operating the network, cloud, blockchain, among some of the things to discuss, as well as economy of things, which I'm personally working on as well. But we could see that the smartphone penetration is very, very significant. And I suppose what we're trying to understand here is, how does that translate into metaverse opportunity or right to play in the metaverse? At the same time, blockchain has made significant progress over the last sort of 10 years. At the count of the end of last year, the cryptocurrency market was worth just over 1.7 billion, 1.7 trillion. That was the size of the cryptocurrency market. Interestingly, as of June this year, with the crypto crash, it has lost over 50% of its value. So it's now under 1 trillion, but still significant size. A lot of spending, 6.6 billion spent on blockchain solutions in 2021. The NFT markets, so non-fungible tokens, where you see tokenized art, tokenized music, tokenized entertainment, and ticketing, 41 billion. The top two platforms at the end of last year, Bitcoin was 600 billion at the end of 2021, was actually in the top 10. It was the 10th biggest asset, ahead of MasterCard and Visa and some of these known brands. With Ethereum, they were in the top 5. Of course, again, this has to be seen in the context of the cryptocurrency crash and over 50% of the value being lost. So they're now outside of the top 20, but still very, very significant from zero to top 10 world asset in 2021 is significant growth. Just a deeper dive into blockchain. So we've just spoken about the size of the cryptocurrency market. Decentralized finance is basically where you have democratized finance using smart contracts, and that was growing very, very significantly, 240 billion in 2021, now under 100 billion because of the crash. So we're seeing some volatility in the cryptocurrency and blockchain market. 22 billion traded in NFTs, 30 billion invested in crypto startups in 2021. Electronic trading fund for Bitcoin traded 1 billion on its first day. over 200 million global cryptocurrency users. The most expensive NFT sold, which is art for the Pax merge, over $91 billion US. The top 6 Metaverse coins at the end of 2021 were worth over 21 billion. Unfortunately, with the crash, they've gone down to under 10 billion, but still very, very significant. End of 2021, we had 79 countries working on central bank digital currencies. This is where central banks are producing digital tokens for their sovereign currencies, which can be used in the wider token economy. Now there's 105, so that's the one green across the dashboard, which is actually increasing in 2022 as opposed to 2021. And of course, the other green is the mobile phone penetration, which is continuing to grow to cover much of the world's population. So what is the size of the metaverse opportunity? So if you look at it in the context of population and smartphone usage, in 2020, GDA Capital estimated the metaverse opportunity to be worth 487 billion, which is pretty significant. If we look at that now, that could be in 2024, 800 billion. And if we look at that in 2034, there are estimates of anywhere between US 10 trillion by Motley Fool, and we've had a number of forecasts from Citibank, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, putting in the estimate anywhere between $1 trillion US and $13 trillion by 2034. And then we've got Michael Ball from Epleon, who's saying in the next 10 to 15 years, it could be 30 trillion. I don't know where it lies between that. I think I think the world GDP was 98 trillion last year. So I think anywhere between 1 and 30 trillion would represent a very, very significant opportunity for the metaverse. And we're starting to see a number of companies come in to this. So I think the big one was Meta, Facebook. Meta changed their name to Metaverse or to Meta in 2021. Big announcement. NVIDIA announcing the Omniverse. We've had Microsoft purchasing Activision, Call of Duty, and moving into the Metaverse space, and a number of our others. So the question is, what will drive the Metaverse opportunity? You know, where is this $1 trillion revenue going to come from? So just a little look at Morgan Stanley and Citi's analysis of it. So Citi are saying smart manufacturing technology, virtual advertising, online events, where you have the immersive experience, making them globally accessible, could be some of the key drivers. Morgan Stanley seeing this as immersive connectivity experience being one of them. And then I think this is very interesting, replacing offline activities. So vehicle test drives, things that you normally have to go and see and do, where you could do it more conveniently, where you've got an immersive experience in the metaverse, could be sort of key replacements driving new business models. Just some more, Alibaba Group, 60 million purchase of Nreal, which is an AR and VR company. JP Morgan opens a bank in the metaverse and predicts 1 trillion opportunity. And Nike purchases RTFKT to make shoes for the metaverse. And we've had similar things from Adidas. So a lot of headlines, some very reputable names predicting a huge opportunity. We don't know exactly where it lies, but we know it's in the trillions. So let's just understand a bit more about it. So in terms of the journey from Web 1 to Web 3, we can see that Web 1 was more about desktop-based. It was banner ads, consumer adoption. And if we look more at it, it was more about reading. So it was about, the information superhighway and reading information, static text. Companies were the organizations that were part of it. The infrastructure was computers and on-prem infrastructure. Control was decentralized, and the edge of authentication was none. It was a password on a computer to access it. In terms of Web 2, which is where we are now, I mean, that can be characterized as the mobile revolution, sharing economy. So a lot of platforms, Netflix, Uber, Airbnb, a number of these platforms have been born based on over-the-top applications on faster data and internet. And then obviously we've got streaming services, social media, scale platforms. So quite a big revolution. And the characteristics of that are the ability to read and write, interactive content, the platform economy, so the move from companies to platforms, infrastructure being largely cloud and mobile, control being centralized by the big sort of technology and social media companies with a business model for monetizing the data. And the authentication has been mobile and passwords. As we move into Web3, and there is a battle for Metaverse, which is, okay, if we've got the likes of Facebook and big technology companies moving in, is the Metaverse just going to be an add-on or a sort of ecosystem layer to, an interaction front-end layer to Web2? In which case, it will be an evolution of the sharing economy, streaming, social media companies, internet companies, or is it going to be, Web3 based? Now, I think the school of thought is that it may be a hybrid. I think the sort of internet and technology companies, social media companies have huge, billions of users that can easily be ported across to sort of Web3, to Metaverse applications. But there's some other things to consider. So Web3 is more AR, VR ready and native with a focus on the operating system. It's decentralized web or hybrid. So we're expecting that for the Metaverse in Web3 it could be decentralized or hybrid. And another things to look at is self-sovereign. So rather than one big platform controlling the data and access, we're saying that the data and access and identity lies with the user, and they are able to use those credentials across different platforms. And then, of course, the other big thing is the token economy, where essentially you can have online digital ownership and value, which can be transferred in tokens or other mediums across value and held across value and exchanged across value. Some of the sort of typical things, so read, write, virtual economies, networks. So in terms of organizations, networks, something called decentralized autonomous organizations, and smart contract execution of the mission and vision statements. Infrastructure, blockchain, so distributed infrastructure, blockchain, distributed data, distributed cloud. Control, democratized, so decentralized or probably hybrid would be more realistic. And more importantly, the edge authentication could be public-private key infrastructure, which is what we largely have now in Web3 blockchain, multi-sig, which is evolving, which is where you can have a combination of different types of keys or authentication paired with mobile biometrics and 2FA. And I think the last line shows where one of the key areas, which is at the edge, where mobile and telecommunications can play a role in Web3 and a role in the evolution of the Metaverse. One thing I wanted to highlight was NFTs, so non-fungible tokens, gaining a lot of headlines, making a lot of progress in terms of adoption in different industries. Largely used at the moment for digitized art. So this is real world, physical art, which is turned into a token and can be transacted, or if it's fractionalized, or digitally generated art as well. So you'd have heard of the Bored Ape and CryptoPunks and some of the other digital art doodles, another popular one, where NFTs are created to signify ownership of them. Music, you've got NFT companies starting to go into wider entertainment rather than just tokenizing what's in the physical. You've now got the other way around, where they're starting to branch out and have digitally generated content, which is being used and consumed in the physical world. And then there are other areas like ticketing, where NFTs are prominent. Now, I just raise NFTs because that is going to be the currency of the Metaverse, as far as we can see. We're already seeing it in gaming, where essentially you can earn value in these play-to-earn models in a game and transfer that value across different environments. So the NFT is the medium of exchange and the store of value in the metaverse so far. So I just wanted to major then on some decisions on the metaverse and enablers and telco. So some key words, metaverse retail, right? We're starting to see, retail shops being opened, in the metaverse. What does that mean? How will that transcend with the physical sort of retail experience or the existing online retail experience? Clearly, retail is going to be one of the key things. But then we've got to think about how do we, get it metaverse insurance? How do we insure ourselves in the metaverse if something goes wrong or if there's risk that needs to be covered? Metaverse gaming, what will that mean in terms of more immersive experiences and joined up gaming across different ecosystems? Metaverse entertainment, so concerts, other music streaming services in the metaverse. One of the key things we've seen is real estate. So Sandbox and Decentraland, and every day or week you see headlines of some big corporation buying a plot of land in the metaverse. Interesting though that this points out the need for governance and policy because essentially one of the key drivers of value in the real world is scarcity, right? So I cannot buy 2 plots of land in London Park Lane. I can't duplicate it. There's only one. But in the metaverse, essentially, there's nothing to stop another platform from coming up and offering, a similar plot of land in the metaverse in London Park Lane to meet demand. So supply is not finite, and bearing in mind that the economic models we have is all about scarcity and scarcity of resources and limited supply driving value. That it shows that the metaverse will need some regulation, it will need some governance, it will need some policy. In the wider business, we've got things like metaverse of supply chain, metaverse of things. So this is where you have Internet of Things starting to go between virtual and real worlds and supply data between them. MetaFi, so can you have decentralized finance in the metaverse banking, metaverse finance? These are all things that we need to consider, but some of the questions are decentralized versus centralized ecosystem. Does Web3 provide more incentive for rapid growth of the metaverse? We see significant adoption of social media companies, but essentially the profits are going back to the social media companies. In this case, there's scope for a lot more players, including telcos, to share in the wealth. And will that lead to more rapid growth? If so, is that the way we're going to go? Another key thing is smartphones. 6.1 billion or over 6 billion smartphones. Key access point to the metaverse. And we've had mobile VR, mobile AR. As data becomes faster, 5G begins to be a key enabler, be rolled out as a key enabler of the metaverse. How do we monetize from a telco mobile point of view? Can we combine mobile with blockchain, Web3 to accelerate access and adoption to the metaverse? So we've got 6.1 billion handsets. Why can't those handsets communicate directly with the decentralized blockchain infrastructure of the metaverse to have faster, better, more efficient user experiences which are secure at the edge? How will we identify people across the metaverse and correlate to legal identity, KYC, AML contracting? So this is basically saying that, it's fine to have, pay to earn models and to be able to move from one game to another, one metaverse environment to another, one metaverse country to another. But essentially, who's going to be responsible for the actions? How will I ensure that funds earned are related to an individual? How will I do KYC, AML? How can I ensure jurisdiction and contracting? And this is where I think telcos have a right to play here. Because if somehow, the person is related to the phone number, which is related to KYC, AML, and contracting, all of a sudden, you've got, 6.1 billion people who can be traced back to a real person a real legal entity. How do I have an identity that can carry value across metaverses? And I think this is the same thing where you link a wallet, to a phone number, which essentially provides key capabilities to do that. Again, I think that this is an area where telcos can play. And how can you combine, integrate IoT data with solutions and experiences in the virtual world? And this is saying, you'll have some scenarios in the metaverse where real world data, from real world sensors, will play a part in it. So it could be where you've got supply chains that are crossing real and virtual worlds. It could be where data from the real world is being used to inform a customer experience in the metaverse. And how do we combine that? How can we integrate those data sets into a real world experience? Another thing to consider is making a call in the metaverse. So I drew this picture, this sketch of how it could look. So I think the first change is, okay, maybe the smartphone evolves so you have integrated connectivity into wearable, AR and VR devices. But the key thing is that you're then combining that capability with the wallet and identity, interoperable identity, so that essentially that person, the physical person, can either use that capability to make a real world physical to physical call. So that's what we have now, where I call a friend or a colleague in the USA, and we use we use normal connectivity to do that. The key thing is that the phone number is still an ID, and you have data, and you have the identity that works there. But what about where essentially I'm trying to communicate with someone who's in a virtual environment? And I call this the physical to virtual call. And again, the same connectivity, except now you're looking at data connectivity. Same identity would be used to translate both. So you'd have a digital twin of the person and their phone number attribute in the virtual world. And then the wallet would be able to store value from activities in the virtual world and a physical world. So it's subject to jurisdiction, KYC, taxation, and other things. So again, you're going beyond just connectivity to supporting with some edge-based secure applications. And then you have virtual to virtual, which is, will the telco need to evolve to provide efficient ways for people to communicate with each other in the virtual world? So you've got virtual offices, virtual manufacturing, virtual businesses. How do you make a call there? How will communications work? Again, could the phone number evolve as an ID, but the actual messaging and communication protocols evolve to be something that's efficient and hardwired into 5G and in Type 6G. So this is just a picture, just indicating some of the evolution that we might need to see. The other thing is the Metaverse of Things. So, we've spoken about the Internet of Things, which is devices being connected, devices producing data, devices being siloed. The economy of things is building on that, so devices can transact with each other. But the Metaverse of Things really expands that to look at devices that can exist in virtual worlds, which are either a digital twin of a real world device, or are just virtual devices that are collecting data in the virtual world and transcending for things like both worlds, for things like supply chain. Something to think about, but it's something that's relevant. And then I just wanted to really run through a framework. So how does all of this come together? And I think if we start at the bottom, it's about the ecosystem. So realizing that 31 to 30 trillion opportunity, I think it's more like the one. It's about the ecosystem. A metaverse will not produce any value unless somebody's using it, right? So what we've seen with Facebook turning to Meta and some of the other big technology companies starting to move in this is that you have instant ecosystem. If you look at the 6.1 billion smartphone users, that is a significant ecosystem that telecom companies, CSPs, can bring to the metaverse. And I think that needs to be thought about. The mobile phone is a key access point. Data will be a key enabler. So what part can telcos play in that ecosystem? The other side that we move up to the very top is the physical translation of metaverse experiences. So, if you buy a painting, with an NFT in the metaverse, or NFT in the metaverse, 3D printing, is a key thing. Wallets that lead to physical bank accounts or physical custodian solutions in the real world will be key. Blockchain will be key to bridge and provide trust between different worlds: physical, virtual to virtual. And then you have stores. So will there be stores in the physical world that you can go into where you have a mashup of virtual and physical experiences? Social media, we're already seeing the evolution of that. Just in Instagram, you can start selling NFTs. We're seeing a move into by Meta into immersive experiences, even producing the hardware, the glasses. And then we've got mobile, which is the access point, and 5G, which is the enabler. And identity being the key thing to be able to move from a physical world into a virtual world. And if you look at this, there's three key enablers that allow you to move in this framework from physical to virtual. One is the blockchain, which provides trust and immutability between both worlds. One is data, 5G being absolutely critical here. And the other is the mobile phone, which is the access point. If we look at the virtual world itself, we've got AR, VR. These devices will of course develop. We've got blockchain, which is providing the ability and the trust to join up ecosystems and have joined up journeys. And obviously AI, which will again be part of the journeys. But again, you have identity, which will be key to even interacting in metaverse platforms. And then we look at it again, which is the financing of the metaverse. So how do you transact value? One of the things that's emerging will be NFTs, which is digital ownership. But there'll be a lot of tokens related to different ecosystems in the metaverse, which will be key to how you can exchange value and store value. And of course, there will be means to push that either into normal currency or tokens held on sort of custodian solutions. And then you have financing. So is there an opportunity to finance the metaverse? Provide decentralized finance, centralized finance? Will central bank digital currencies play a role? NFTs, other tokens? Will you be able to, in time, to get a mortgage if you're buying a piece of land in the metaverse, or a building, or building a business? These are all opportunities which form part of the framework of the metaverse. Of course, the other thing will be data. So will the metaverse signal the move from a centralized data business model where the data is being monetized by sort of big platform companies to a decentralized model based on self-sovereign digital identity and self-sovereign data models? And if that is the case, how do you monetize it? How will that affect incentives? Will it drive incentives? Will it drive down investment in the short term? The other side is metaverse business. So what will businesses look like? Existing big enterprises will see this as an extension, an evolution of their current footprint. But of course, as we saw with Web 2, you'll have a lot of sort of Web 2 native, in this case, Web 3 native companies that will grow very quickly. And then we have the decentralized autonomous organization, which is a smart contract run organization. And this is a new type of business, which is very big in decentralized finance, but also is being earmarked to be a big system for the metaverse. So looking at that, the other thing we've got to look at is the social, political, environmental, and macroeconomic. So all of this needs to be thought of. Right now we've got a situation where interest rates are going up, inflation's going up. If the metaverse is going to be 10% of GDP, then our macroeconomic policy needs to be there. But also we need to make sure if it's something that's necessary, we have universal access. That is part of our policies, procedures, that we look at the environmental aspect. So this is the metaverse framework, which sort of pulls all of this all of this together. And what we can see from a telco point of view is that the mobile phone can be the middleware of the metaverse, allowing people to use the mobile phone and the mobile phone cryptography and security to move between different worlds and to access different layers of the metaverse, like finance and data and business. And the connectivity can be the enabler of the metaverse, providing secure, fast, low latency connectivity, key enablers. The question is, which other areas can the telcos explore? Can telcos move into finance? Can they move more into data? Do they move into experiences? Do they move into new metaverse communication businesses? How do they leverage their ecosystems? These are some of the questions that need to be considered for strategy. But I will stop there. Thank you. Any questions?
Well, David, I think you've raised a lot more questions than answers in many ways. There's just so many aspects, I think, and so many variables. I think, because unfortunately we're out of time, I have one question to you. Sorry if you mentioned this and I somehow missed it, but what do you think about in terms of timelines and when we might begin to, I know we've got a lot of the pieces already, but what do you think about timelines? And for example, if I buy a dress in one metaverse, when am I going to be able to wear it in another, which is never going to happen, but in theory?
Yeah, in theory, I think a lot of technologies are coming together. They're not there yet. You're absolutely right. I think the next 5 to 10 years, but it will be an evolution, not a revolution. So I think the strategy and the steps need to be taken now. But I think, I agree with you. I think 5 to 10 years before we actually see any real joined up customer experiences, on a massive scale of adoption.
Okay, so we've got a question. Somebody's asked, are there any use cases regarding the metaverse in telecoms networks now? I think, I suppose there are a lot of, I don't know, I guess IFLAND and SKT is one. I asked your question. I should put myself on mute. Sorry.
No. I think that's one. There's also a lot of work being done on the infrastructure. So if you look at what will power the metaverse in terms of people and customer experiences, things like digital identity, it's things like joining the telco network, with blockchains and providing that trust layer. And there's a lot of work going on there and roaming on telco, digital identity, et cetera, which are going to be absolutely key enablers. In terms of experiences, we're seeing that a lot of telcos are starting to move into NFTs or starting to play with them. We're seeing that a lot of telcos are starting to explore the metaverse and how they can best support it, how they can best participate in it. So there's a lot of thinking, a few key steps at the core foundational level. And I think over the next few years, that will translate into some sort of headline.
Okay, thank you. Really interesting stuff. We'll hope you come back at a future event. We want to know how it's all panning out. Thank you very much, David. That was great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.